Hey everyone, welcome back to Reflection Bad, and today we're going to be playing some Katsu. So we're probably going to be releasing this video on a Friday, but don't get me wrong, I don't think that this is going to be an F tier Friday. Instead, I think that this is actually going to be an A tier, maybe S tier Friday. Katsu actually got quite a bit of juice from the new Aurora deck. I kind of want to touch on it, but there have been some murmurs about Katsu, mainly that he's going to be a contender for the Pro Tour Singapore. We'll see how that plays out, but Katsu might actually be a little bit slept on right now. So I wanted to kind of touch on like what new tools he got. So the main, I guess, reason why I dismissed a lot of the kind of like Ira Armory deck Katsu's was that you have to run Edge of Autumn, right? And Edge of Autumn is basically almost like a downside. You're basically having to run it over Kadachi's. There are some like pros and cons there, but like mainly you're losing out on a second weapon, which in Katsu can be very powerful if you are able to like swing two weapons in a turn. You can get into like Kadachi lock, stuff like that. So you're basically giving up a weapon in or weapon slot in order to run Edge of Autumn. And what does Edge of Autumn allow you to do? So with the new kind of like Ira Armory deck, what you kind of get out of it is a bunch of these like Vengeance cards. These are all cards that just have Vengeance in the name. For the most part, this one actually has an on hit, but they have various effects if a Edge of Autumn was the last card played. But the main kind of like payoff for running Edge of Autumn is Okana Scar Wraps, and this is a 2-block arms equipment that lets you basically turn your Edge of Autumn into like an ancestral empowerment. Obviously, you don't get the draw off of it, but this is a very, very powerful effect. Now, I'll also bring you to your attention to this little clause after. So this says whenever an attacking control with Vengeance in its name hits, you may equip an Edge of Autumn from your banish zone. So this is not all one clause, if you'll notice. So you don't have to like attack, react, and then like if the attack doesn't like hit, then you don't get to re-equip the Edge of Autumn. No, this is basically just a static effect. So whenever you hit with a card that says Vengeance in its name, you get to equip an Edge of Autumn if you have one banished. So this basically gives you a repeatable kind of ancestral empowerment effect, which is very, very powerful, especially in Katsu, where you have a lot of very relevant on hits like Whelming Gust Wave, stuff like that, like Surging Strike. And notably, with Okana Scar Wraps, what you can do is you can actually give a target ninja attack action card go again. So with breaking skills before, you can only use it on a card with combo. But this allows you to actually put it on cards like Be Like Water. It allows you to put it on like Surging Strike. So there's a lot more flexibility to that as well. The Ira Armory deck also gives us another functional ancestral empowerment in Legacy of Ikaru, but this one is a blue 3-block, which is also kind of insane. So it basically gives target attack +1, and then when this hits, if Edge of Autumn was the last attack that's commenting, draw a card. So this is actually really powerful on Surging Strike, for example, right? So if you do like maybe Edge of Autumn into Surging Strike into Legacy, then you get to pump the Surging Strike to 6, and then you also get to draw a card, which is very, very strong. So this deck, I think it still has a lot of the kind of Katsu problems, but we are getting a bit bolstered by having additional kind of block on our armor. It's a very, very powerful deck. Now, I think the real secret for this deck might lie in kind of like the sideboarding. So the sideboard for this deck is pretty simple. I put in CNCs just for like anything that is running a lot of D-Reacts, just slower matchups, because going Edge of Autumn and CNC is quite powerful. One Battlefront Bastion just for like the Prism matchup, and then we have a little kind of like D-React package mainly for assassins. I think you can also maybe like put Snag in place of this Battlefront Bastion. I think that's also pretty reasonable if you're expecting a lot of Slippy in like the Pro Tour weekend. But yeah, this I think is a pretty solid, at least main deck. I haven't really quite figured out the sideboard yet, but we'll kind of maybe iterate on that as we kind of like play out these games. But yeah, this is going to be a pretty interesting deck. I've heard a lot of good things about this deck, but I haven't gotten the chance to test a lot of it myself, especially in paper. So I wanted to kind of give it a shot here and kind of see how it goes. So yeah, without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the games. All right, it's playing against an Ira. So Ira does get a couple new tools with mainly kind of like the incentive to play out that what's that card called? The one that basically gives you 2 card draws. But I think we're just gonna probably run the aggro package. So they're opting to go first. I think that we'll just choose to go second here. And we got pretty good starting hand. So let's see what the card Whirling Mist Blossom, that's the card I'm thinking of. But anyways, that is kind of like the one draw of playing Ira, because I think Whirling Mist Blossom is an Ira specialization, so you get the Iris of Blossom headpiece, which can do some funny things. I think one of the funniest things I've seen with it is like discarding like Fiddler's Green to go get a Whirling Mist Blossom. But I think here we're probably just gonna let the Edge of Autumn hit, because our hand's like pretty good. We get to go like Be Like Water, Descendant Bonds. I guess we should probably block with the Dishonor. I guess the question is like, how wide do we expect them to go? So I think we're probably just going to take the Edge of Autumn here. If they don't give us a way to effectively block, it's probably not the end of the world here. Like if they just pass off this hand, it's like a little bit awkward, but not even by that much. Still just get to go like Be Like Water, maybe into Descendant Bonds, depending on what they let hit. But yeah, I was initially kind of skeptical of Edge of Autumn and Katsu, but it does kind of make a lot of sense. Like you get a very good payoff in your arm slot at the cost of a Kodachi, and you also get to run a lot of the kind of better cards from the Ira Armory deck, like the Seek Vengeances are pretty good. I think it makes a lot of sense that this deck does do pretty, or like the Armory deck did add a lot of things for Katsu. Alright, seems like they're just going to follow up with an Enact Vengeance, so I think we're going to be more than happy to block here. Could also block with the Bonds here, or maybe in the Be Like Water. It might actually be correct to block with Be Like Water here, just so we can like keep Descendant Bonds in hand, and we can also just get a Dishonor out of graveyard. I think that's probably the most efficient thing we can do here. It's like a little greedy, but I don't think it's that greedy. They did technically, I think, have the opportunity to pump by 1 there, but maybe just not getting greedy against a D-React in case we're running them. I think that's pretty reasonable. But yeah, I think the main draw of Ira is that you get like Iris of the Blossom, which is definitely scary. But beyond that, not like super threatening. All right, so we draw a little bit of an unfortunate hand. And we could still just do like Descendant Bonds, get back Dishonor, maybe Arsenal the Whelming for next turn. We could also Arsenal the Enact Vengeance, both of which are pretty fine. I guess we should potentially. It's kind of interesting. We kind of know what we're getting already, so maybe like keeping the Whelming. It's probably still better to keep the Whelming. It's like one of our most powerful cards, whereas Vengeance is kind of like whatever. All right, so they're just gonna let it hit here. We guess we will go ahead and maybe use the Katsu ability. Maybe we're just supposed to get a Bonds and then Arsenal the other Bonds for next turn. I think that makes sense. Grab Dishonor. They're passing very fast here. This kind of makes sense. So yeah, I guess we just get to do Descendant Bonds Dishonor, and that's pretty good. Arsenal the other Bonds. Kind of makes sense. But yeah, we'll see what kind of hand they have to follow it up. Ira can put out some really dumb numbers if she does get the Whirling Mist Blossom online, which is pretty good. But we get a nice little Bondsman in Arsenal, which I think is well worth it. All right, starting out with their own Edge of Autumn. Very fine. Luthor and Tempo is an interesting include. I feel like I've seen that in the Ira Armory deck, but beyond that, it's not been super impressive. All right, Enact Vengeance is very threatening here. So we could, if we wanted to, give up on the Bonds and then just block, or we could either block 7 with like Breeze Rider Boots and then give up on Bonds, or alternatively we can like so we have 2 options here. We can either block 7 and then save our Bonds, or we can play 100 Winds and Be Like Water, or like just no blocks, 100 Winds, Be Like Water. Maybe we get to Gust Wave as well. It's kind of an interesting decision point. I think it might be worth it to. Well, the double block also gets punished by the Okana, which is really bad. So maybe we're just actually supposed to let this go. Because I assume that they're probably just going to pump with the Scar Reps here. Because it's basically free. Yeah, it's kind of interesting because they functionally like IP2'd themselves. But I mean, they still got like a pretty decent amount of value. So how do we want to start this off? We'd probably just start with Be Like Water and maybe just try to go for an Okana ourselves. All right, well, we won't react unless they have a react here. All right, so fortunately we didn't go for it. If we went for the Okana, then we probably wouldn't be able to get our Edge of Autumn back for a bit. So now I think we can just follow up with like 100 Winds. And then can technically give a +1, but we only get the card draw if it hits, and then also that. So I think we're probably just fine letting the 100 Winds go. We'll pass here, not destroy, Katsu. Let's discard. I feel like maybe we want to save this for next turn. Maybe like Whelming's actually better though. Maybe we should just grab what here? Maybe just like a Flusterfist to kind of fuel our graveyard. I think that's reasonable. We could also get a Seek Vengeance, which would allow us to get functionally +1 damage if we wanted to kind of just push a little bit. Which I think is pretty reasonable, right? Yeah, I think we should basically just like push 5 here, right? It's pretty unlikely that they're going to be want to really cover this. Worst case scenario, they have like wax on here, and then that would cover it. But I think just getting our little piece of chip in is pretty reasonable. If they have double react, I think we're more than fine with that. So we will go ahead and re-equip the Edge Bottom and then not destroy the links and Arsenal Whelming. So I think we're in a pretty good spot. Would like to find a Surging, but even this hand can kind of play. I feel like we've been drawing some kind of unfortunate hands with the all reds here, but not the end of the world. Let's see what they got as follow-up. Snatch is pretty good. So we could respect this and give this like 6 block. It's not terrible. It would prevent them from just functionally drawing a card. They could obviously snaps as well. I feel like we're probably supposed to respect this, even though I kind of don't want to. If we have to like block out with our whole hand, I'm like kind of fine with that. So yeah, maybe we are supposed to just like block 6 here or something like that. They have like the legacy that gets a little bit annoying. But if they just follow up with like CNC or something, we're probably okay. Although they would get the extra +1. Or no, they already got the +1 on the first thing because of Edge Bottom, right? Alright, just following up with the Sirens of Safe Harbor. So I think we're just going to take our little bit of block here and then just send Seek Vengeance for functionally 5 if we want it. I think this works out pretty well in our favor. They do get to gain a little bit of life off the Sirens of Safe Harbor, but the on-hit is not super threatening there. So yeah, we'll just go ahead and send in 4 functionally 5. I do think we can get a little bit aggressive with the Yukana. But if they block like this, then they could potentially cover with React. Are we okay if they want to like just use a React on this though? Maybe we're fine with that. I think we just want to be like, if we can force a React out of their hand here, I think that actually might be a pretty big deal. We're basically paying Edge of Autumn to get a card out of their hand, which I think is probably worth it. Like if they want to like try to keep us off the Edge of Autumn, I think that's probably fine for us. Right, and we get our Edge of Autumn back, which is really nice. And we'll just go ahead and decline all these triggers and pass back. Still would like to find one of our Surging Strikes, just so we get the opportunity to use Cross Wrap effectively. Oh wait, do we not get an Edge of Autumn back? Alright, I think we should have had the Edge of Autumn. I thought I said yes to that, but maybe I didn't. Not a ton of Talishar practice with this deck, honestly. Yeah, I thought I clicked yes, but maybe I can go back in the tapes and prove myself wrong. So technically here we should have an Edge of Autumn, which hopefully maybe we can find another card where that might not matter. Okay, third Enact Vengeance. That is a pretty good set of draws. This is probably one of like the best cards against us, honestly. So I imagine we're probably just supposed to take this and just try to keep the hand as is. We lose out on a Whelming. Obviously unfortunate. But not much we can really do here. They are still kind of IPing a lot, so it's pretty interesting. Could be in a fine spot. All right, looks like they're going to go ahead and cash in their Arcana value as well. Pretty likely to assume that we don't have a React there. But yeah, Act Vengeance coming in for 8 is very, very powerful. All right, and I think now is the opportunity to crack our cross trap. We found our Surging Strike. We can follow up with a Whelming. Unfortunately, we don't have our Edge of Autumn live, which would have made this turn significantly better if we needed to pump this Whelming. I imagine they probably want to just give like a 4 block on this, maybe. So I think I'm not supposed to Ancestral Empowerment. I'm supposed to wait and see what they do. Okay, so they didn't do anything. That's good for us then. Let's go ahead and Katsu. Or sorry, Breeze Rider Boots, no. Lynx, maybe later this turn. We'll kind of determine that later. Then use the Katsu ability. Let's discard. We already have a Dishonor in the bin. We also have 2 bonds in the bin. So I guess we should just discard the Dishonor and then just try to pump Whelming. We could also discard the Whelming. I guess like it's pretty bad if we do that. I think we're discarding Dishonor. Yeah, I think it's discard Dishonor, get bonds. And then we can play Whelming, Ancestral Bonds, maybe even get a Vengeance card so that we can buy back our Edge of Autumn, which we should have had in the first place, but it's fine. So now we can follow up with the Whelming, which will come in for 2. Maybe they're tempted here to give a 2-block, in which case we get to blow them out with like Ancestral Empowerment. All right, so they didn't say any blocks on this either. Guess we will just go for the Empowerment. Pumping to 3 is pretty good. Drawing a Fluster is potentially fine. If the Whelming hits here, we're in pretty good shape. Right, the Whelming did in fact hit. So I think you need to order. Wait, why can I not drag these anymore? Oh, okay. Oh, you have to like click them to add. Okay, I think this like changed since I last played. All right, so we want. Hold on. Maybe I don't understand how to actually resolve these triggers because I think it's doing it in the wrong order. This is one of those Talishar things that I'm never sure which way it's actually supposed to be working. But I'm also someone with notoriously bad reading comprehension, so probably just on me. All right, so we'll not destroy Lynx yet. Probably do want to destroy Breeze Rider. Draw Seek Vengeance. So now I can follow up with the bonds and grab what's here. You can grab Descendant, honestly. Pitch the Seek Vengeance, and then finish on like Retrace into Fluster. It's kind of a pretty good turn. Actually, what we could have done was we could have gotten a red Whelming, or no, I guess red Whelmings are out of the deck. So maybe red Descendant's still fine. Pitching the Vengeance is a little bit awkward, especially with Breeze Rider up. Yeah, this probably still works out. So we will go ahead and destroy Lynx. We'll grab a Retrace. We can do Descendant into Fluster, or Descendant Retrace Fluster. I think it was definitely better to maybe get our yellow Whelming Gustwave here so that we don't have to pitch and then we can threaten to get our Edge of Autumn back. It's probably a better play. But the I think the Talishar UI is throwing me off once again. All right, we'll retrace, name open the center. So all in all, still probably gets most of the way there. We are forcing them to block, which is nice. And it looks like they might just be off of it here. So they had a Legacy, a Double Strike, and Bittering Thorns plus Empowerment. Kind of an interesting deck. It looks almost very similar to the Aggro Armory deck. Like the Blue Torrent Tempos and the Soul Beat Strikes are pretty similar to what I saw there. I think this is probably like not the direction you generally want to go. As I I think that maybe this just upgraded like CNCs, which is also like pretty reasonable. But in general, over like the Iroh decks I've seen, like I don't think you want to be kind of like doing a very like aggro game plan. You probably want like a mix of like the more mid range stuff. Dual threat also notably gets a lot worse into kind of like if you're running the sword, right, because it becomes very hard to swing edge bottom twice in a turn. I think it's technically possible, right? If you banish it, re-equip it, I think you like if you swing, banish it, re-equip it. I guess you can technically swing with the same edge of bottom twice, but I guess it kind of relies on you hitting, which is a bit interesting. All right, pretty interesting game. Let's see if we can get another one. All right, playing against the Gravy Bones. Definitely want to go first, and this is basically the only matchup you want. Massive Pouncing Links in, and we'll be just super aggressive and send it. See how it goes. This is a matchup I've not played a ton of, but from what I've heard, it's pretty brutal from the Gravy perspective. All right, opening hand is fine. Probably just going to start on the Be Like Water. I kind of have to double block this, which is a bit sick. Like, we might be able to just get super aggro with the Okana here if we wanted to, if they don't respect this. Or rather, if they can't respect it. That's also kind of an option. Like, what we could end up doing here is basically just trading Okana for, like, Quick Dodge, which I think, or trading Edge of Autumn for Quick Dodge, which might be pretty reasonable, depending on what they have. I think we're supposed to go for it. Just get super aggro if they want to use Quick Dodge on the first turn. I think I'm kind of happy with that. Let's see if this play works out for us, because this is like a very aggressive play, I would say. Now it's a bit of awkward, I guess. I guess we can like send just Dishonor here and see how it goes. Could also like Close Chain and Harmony, which could pay off. Definitely a couple options. Maybe we're supposed to just like Dishonor here and then just Arsenal the Ancestral Empowerment. Hope we draw like a starter on our next turn. Yeah, I wonder if that's actually wrong to go for that. It seems pretty good to get Quick Dodge out of the way early, though. And like we do have Breeze Order Boots to eventually get our Edge of Autumn back, so it's not like we're losing it forever, right? I think this is like pretty reasonable. Go ahead and Arsenal Ancestral Harmony. And like basically next turn they're kind of faced with a similar proposition, it feels like. So you get a Golden Tipple on turn 1 here, getting an Anka, pretty strong. Fun fact about, or like fun thing about this matchup is that obviously you get to attack allies, which means your Mask Momentum draws cards. Anka is one of the better ones because it does potentially deny a card draw. And it looks like they're going to basically be guaranteed to get a gold here, but not the end of the world. We're just going to be able to be pretty aggressive on this hand. Like we can Be Like Water the Anka, name Surging Strike potentially. I think we're still in a pretty good spot. So we're definitely going to start off with the Empowerment here. Or sorry, the Harmony here, rather. Lots of Ancestrals in this deck. We have pretty good odds of hitting with this deck, and we hit a Descendant, which is nasty. Not like super nasty, but pretty okay. So let's start with Be Like Water at Anka. And they are going to go ahead and use it up there. So we'll not be able to draw a card this turn. But next time we do draw a card, we also have to discard a card. Are we fine discarding a card, though? Like, maybe we actually are, if we want to try to find just, like, a blue or something better to play off of this. Could also be correct to just pay into it and then Arsenal for next turn or something. I think there are a couple different lines we could do here. Let's go ahead and just maybe pay into it, and that would make our Descendant free. Let's let theirs resolve first. And then we want, I guess the order doesn't matter here because we're not drawing a card. Yeah, the UI here is still a little bit confusing to me. All right, so we don't want to destroy Breezar. We do want to discard with Katsu. So let's discard our Fluster Fist. I think we're aiming to get a bonds, and then pitch the whelming there. Could also pitch the empowerment as a secondary option. But yeah, let's go ahead and get bonds. We did get quick dodge out of the way, which I think is a pretty good thing, especially on turn 0. Let's give Be Like Water a name, pitching. I still feel like holding on to the whelming is like pretty reasonable. Let's give it Surging Strike. And now we get to just threaten Dishonor, which is kind of disgusting. I'd say this is a pretty good turn. Like, obviously losing the Edge of Autumn is like a little bit suspect on turn 0, but I think if we're trading that for quick dodge, that might be a good trade. Not sure. Like, I feel like it does definitely hurt if we start drawing some of our Vengeance cards and then we don't have the ability to like play them and stuff. But we are going to basically force them to block here. Right, so we will draw a card, but we're also going to have to like discard a card. So also not the end of the world. We'll just discard the Enact Vengeance. Then they have to give us functionally 4 here. Or I guess functionally 5, so they have to give us 2 cards here. The Ancestral Harmony actually buffing this is kind of a huge deal. Because now they can't just block with like Gold Bait Hook, they have to give like 2 real cards or like a D-React or something. Oh wow, if we get like all the armor like this, that's a pretty good thing. Yeah, so I think we're in a really good spot here. They get a 3-card hand, but I think Gravy 3-card hand is kind of whatever. And we're drawing pretty solidly. Alright, so they get a Rigor Mortis back. Playing out to Swabby and that for free. Seems pretty good. Oh, they get a Call to the Grave as well. What are they getting? Getting a back alley break line, so they get 2 action points this turn. Yeah, seems pretty good. They are going to be able to do a pretty decent size swing here. But we're very likely going to be able to re-equip the Edge of Autumn next turn, which is quite nice. Yep, so I think we're going to say no blocks here. They're going to play out Rigor for free and then just swing with it. So all in all, this seems fine. They get a little bit extra gold, which is fine, but we get to be super aggressive, and they're not really presenting any disruption here, which is also really nice. So all in all, I'd say pretty good spot for us. Oh, they're just going to pass instead? Do they not have the ability to swing with Rigor? That could be the case. All right, we're definitely starting off on Be Like Water at Swabby. We then get to rename it into Surging Strike, which is pretty big. So do mine first, I guess. Order doesn't matter. Say no to the Breeze Rider. Might as well just turn the Breeze Rider off. Let's definitely use Katsu. I think we're discarding 100 Winds, right? So we can retrace name Edge of Autumn. Or no, we can't retrace yet. We have to pitch the retrace to that. So I guess we can actually get a retrace. Yeah, maybe getting a retrace is what we do. So we get a retrace. We then pitch to Be Like Water to name Surging, and then we get to send Whelming at them. This seems like a pretty solid hand. Obviously, we're not like threatening the arsenal with Enact Vengeance, which would have been an added benefit, but we are going to be threatening re-equipping the Edge of Autumn, which will help smooth out our future turns. So all in all, I'd say we're still in a really good spot here. If we wanted the guaranteed card draw, we could go at Rigor Mortis, which I guess we might as well do. Might as well just get the free arsenal here. But there's result first, I guess it doesn't matter. All right, we'll retrace, naming Edge of Autumn. And then we just get to finish on Enact Vengeance here, which will basically all but guarantee that we get to buy back our Edge of Autumn. This retrace is also threatening a card draw, which is pretty nice as well. So again, additional card draw off the Vengeance here. We draw the Vengeance. It's kind of interesting. We could now play the Vengeance, pitch to... Nothing works out like super cleanly here. You could also just IP with the blue. I think there is a world where we can play this out, but maybe we don't need to. Maybe we do. They didn't block the last thing. Like, why would they block this? I guess they can, like, deny us the getting back of the dagger with Okana. But other than that, I think this is actually fine. So we play this out. If they block it, then we just play, like, Enact Vengeance to threaten again. And we have to pitch the Gustwave, which I guess is a little bit annoying, but not the end of the world. And if they do let this hit, then we get to go Vengeance, Vengeance. I guess we don't get to go Vengeance, Vengeance because this wouldn't have go again, right? Because this wouldn't, there wouldn't be an edge of bottom this chain. I guess we still get to buy back dagger, which is fine anyways. So we'll equip. Oh, now we get to go edge of bottom though. Okay, so I guess it still does kind of work out. It's just a little bit roundabout because I forgot that we got to now attack with the edge of bottom, which is also a pretty big deal. And then now we can replay this out if we want to. It's interesting. I thought there was normally like a border on this to show that was like in banish. I don't know why that's missing there. Anyways, let's, I guess, just finish on the Gustwave, the second one here. Just get our efficient damage and then maybe just arsenal the Enact Vengeance in case they go for disruption next turn or something. Oh no, I think this is fine though. We're in a pretty good spot. We got most of their armor out of the way and they don't have a board state, so all in all about as good as you can ask for from Gravy. I think this matchup is like pretty terrible, at least it seems like from the Gravy side. I would say this hand is very, very good though. We get to Surging Strike off cross strap, assuming that we're going undisrupted here, which is pretty reasonable. Like worst case scenario, they have a Conqueror, but even then, we just probably lose the Enact Vengeance, so we're not that far behind. Right, looks like they're coming in with a Sloop. Pretty damage efficient, but overall not super scary because it's non-disruptive. So I'm more than happy, I think, to just pass on that. They could still have a Conqueror here. If they played a blue card this turn, I don't think they played a blue card. I think they just activated gold, right? So they need some blue card to play here. Unless they just find like a Conqueror or something random. So all in all, we should be fine here. Maybe like best case scenario is they have double blue. All right, Conqueror obviously quite nice. I think we're just gonna have to eat this. I don't think there's really an argument for trying to block out. Losing the Vengeance is not even that painful anyways. It's an art keeping an arsenal. Though they would get a gold off of it, which I don't think matters too much. Oh, it seems like they maybe wanted to do something different. I guess maybe threaten the gold-baited hook. So the gold-baited hook actually might incentivize me to do something different than what I was doing. But it's probably still the same, right? We probably just still don't care about Enact Vengeance. Gotten a little bit aggressive this game, but I think getting aggressive into Gravy is worth it a lot of the time. You get to drop gold, which is quite nice. So they are set up for an arsenal now, which is also a pretty big deal. So if we crack the cross strap, we can still legacy. They have to give us 2 cards. What if we start on the 100 wins? Does that make sense? Could also pitch the retrace, do surging, save the cross drop. It's another option. That might be correct, because then surging comes in for 7. We get to threaten the card draw in it. I think there's a world where this makes sense. We are at a lower life total, but we still have all of our armor, and we're also head on tempo, I think, which is pretty good. So now we get to follow up searching. They probably give us 2 cards here, and then we blow them out with the legacy plus Okana. Seems pretty good to me. Seems like they're gonna just discard Chum here. Maybe they're trying to fish for some cards to block with. Yeah, I think we're gonna try to blow them out here. But I imagine they're probably just gonna turn over something like bonds. Although they could get greedy and maybe turn over a yellow if they wanted to generate a bit of gold. Notably, the only yellows are allies, so maybe it's just more worth it to get the bonds here, I think. Alright, and now, okay, so they got, what did they sync over? Turn Dishonor face down, I guess that also kind of makes sense. So we'll go for the Legacy here. And then we'll try to pump it for 1 over. If they have a D-React, we're probably fine with that exchange. So we're going to go all in on the Surging here, but we're still getting a lot of value, even if they do somehow find a D-React for this. So we'll do the card draw first. So I think this is the correct order, right? We draw the card first, and then we Katsu. So draw the card. Katsu wants us to get what here? Probably just get, like, Descendant, right? Discard Hunter Winds, get Descendant. And now we're threatening 5 with the card draw on top of it, which is really good because we get to set up an arsenal. Draw Seek Vengeance, which is interesting. We could just play that to threaten the dagger re-equip, or we could play the Fluster Fist. I think both are semi-reasonable. I feel like playing the Seek Vengeance out as a chain ender is kind of more interesting, though, because then this is threatening to re-equip the Edge of Autumn, which maybe smooths out our turn, and then they maybe have to give a block on this. Race Face is an interesting choice. I guess that does technically turn off Okana, right? Because we wouldn't be able to target a ninja card because it's lose it all class. So it kind of makes sense. I think we're probably just gonna go ahead and sacrifice it here, though. So does this hand work if we get Erase Faced? We can Surging Strike, discard a card with combo. Theoretically, even double Surging Strike if we really needed to. I know we just play a Fluster. So I feel like there's no real reason to block this. Maybe we should just for best practice, yada yada yada. If we block with the Okana, we'll never be able to get back our Edge of Autumn. So maybe this is the correct block. I don't feel super strongly about this. Like, I don't even know if we would necessarily need to block with it, but us being not able to get Edge of Autumn back on next turn seems like it might be painful. So let's go ahead and start with the cross wrap here. And just set a red Surging. If they give us 2 block, we're obviously very happy with that. Like, I think we've got them in a blocking position here, which I think favors us. So we definitely want to Katsu. I think we're even going to Breeze Rider at this turn because we have the Fluster, right? Use the Katsu ability, discard the Retrace, grabbing probably just a red Whelming here, just to threaten the additional card draw. I guess we didn't really need a Breeze Rider this, huh? Yeah, the Breeze Rider might have been a mistake. For some reason, I thought we were gonna like Retrace in the Fluster. I guess we wouldn't need the Breeze Rider for that anyways, right? So I guess slight punt there. Sorry, all the triggers in this deck are kind of like disorienting. Go ahead and send it with the Fluster. Maybe they block it, being afraid of something. Yeah, it seems like they're maybe just afraid that we have like another follow-up, but I think we're just gonna pass here. And having Surging Strike in Arsenal is obviously quite good. I think we definitely like misplayed that turn. Like probably the Breeze Rider was a mistake. I feel like this deck is probably a lot easier to play in paper, at least based on my initial impression. So we do 4 into 2 into another 4, threatening the Edge of Autumn on hit. Oh, they're just going to give it to us anyways. Yeah, this would have been a much better Breeze Rider hand, but not the end of the world. I guess we can just get another Bonds here, right? Spread Seek Vengeance, grab Bonds, play Whelming, and we're pretty much in business. They give us a card on this. They have to give us some cards for Bonds. All in all, I think this still works out pretty well for us. Yeah, this matchup seems like very, very bad from the Gravy side. Especially if you don't hit your Disruption at the right time. Let's go ahead and grab, I guess, Seek Vengeance is probably the best thing. Probably just gonna play it as a Chain Ender, Arsenal the Fluster for next turn. I imagine it's probably gonna hit. We might just kill them here if they have a bunch of no blocks in hand, which it seems like they had at least one. But anyways, I don't think they were able to block out. They had Sawbones and Arsenal, Avasti, yeah. This matchup seems very, very rough from the Gravy side, which I think is one of the draws of like playing this at Pro Tour Singapore. You just get a very, very aggro package with a lot of high roll potential, and then you also have like a pretty free Gravy matchup, which is pretty appealing about like probably one of the more appealing things about this deck. All right, let's see if we can get one more. All right, it's playing against an Oscilio. I think whether or not we bring in AB will definitely depend on going first or second. They're putting us on first. Which probably means we just want to be as aggro as possible. Don't think CNC or any of our tech cards are really worth it. I think maybe the one of Salt might be better than Tenacity, just in general against Oscilio. But I think we're just going to AB0 and just try to race. So hopefully this will be pretty good. All right, how are we going to start off here? So we have a pretty lackluster hand. Just very light on the blues, obviously. I think if anything, we maybe just want to like put in an Act Vengeance in Graveyard. Maybe that's like our best line here, and then pitch the bonds for later. And then we get to Arsenal Surging. So I guess this is probably fine. Theoretically, we can also threaten 7 on this if they just decide to like block 6. Probably not worth it on turn 0 to go for the pump there. Theoretically, if the Vengeance hits, we do get our Edge of Autumn back, but there is some mild amount of risk that they have a D-React. Okay, so we unfortunately didn't have a D-React there, but that's fine. I don't think the 1 damage is worth it. And then I think we're just going to go ahead and Arsenal this Surging Strike. Let's go ahead and turn off our links and our Breeze Rider for the time being, just so they're not getting constantly pinged. All right, they have a nice start here with the Sigil Brilliance. Fortunately, just 1 Sigil Brilliance. But yeah, it seemed like their hand was a little bit clunky. I guess Double Blast plus Sigil, maybe not the best Oscilio hand. I feel like our hand next turn is maybe nothing to write home about. Like, we maybe just want to block a little bit this turn. Like, honestly, when I'm thinking... So, there are 2 scenarios here. They blink this with, like, a Sigil, and I guess we maybe get the chance to block later, or we don't block this, and then maybe they, like, blink Mind Warp or something other than that. But starting off the Blast is a bit curious to me. They are on Blossom for what it's worth, but they do need to crack Blossom before they go for anything here. I'm assuming they want a Lightning Greaves. To me, this is fine. Right, they do get the Somersault, but they do need to find a way to generate an action point here, otherwise they cannot play it. I guess they could go for like Null Shock Shock, and maybe that's a decent amount of damage. Okay, they did have the blink. So they get to replay out the Blast. Are we pinning them on another blink here? They could also have the new shock from the High Seas. I forget what that one's called. I think we'll go ahead and just block maybe with the Vengeance Never Rests. And then maybe our turn next turn is like Edge Bottom, Seek Vengeance, Surging, maybe discard the Dishonor. Kind of like that. I'm putting them on not having a second blink here. Like, I feel like at most this is going to be like 5 arcane damage or something. Or Lightning Press is also fine. So if we end up taking 4 here, I think we're okay with that. Seems like they drew a lot of the blasts without the Sigil payoff there, which sometimes I feel like happens in Oscilio. So let's start with the Edge of Autumn here. So I think we're not going to crack the Cross Strap. We're just going to go Edge of Autumn into Seek Vengeance. And we can threaten the Okana Scar Wraps on this too. It's pretty unlikely that Oscilio is able to block 5, so I think it's probably worth it to get a 1 point of extra damage in here. It is a little bit risky if they decide to go for a double D-React, but I think that putting them on a single D-React is pretty reasonable. So let's see if they want to give us another point. It looks like they don't. Yeah, this is good. So we get to buy back our dagger. On Talonfree, you have to be really careful with this. Sometimes it doesn't, like, you have to actually, it's a May trigger, so you have the option to not re-equip it. So technically it's you can like pass it. We will use our Katsu ability to discard Dishonor and grab Red Whelming. And now we can Surging, threaten Whelming again, which is pretty nice. So now you have to give us probably like a 3 block plus another card on this, which is really good. So all in all, pretty good turn for us. And if we force 2 cards out of them, I think we're pretty happy with that. Seems better to maybe just give armor here, which I think they're now realizing. The card is Consigned to Cosmos. I always forget that one. I know it's basically just shock, right? 0-cost shock. Yellow 0-cost shock is all that card is. But all in all, not a bad turn for us. And we draw into another Surging Strike, which is pretty big. They are going to potentially have a Flash of Brilliance turn, though. Ooh, with double sigils is pretty nasty. Yeah, so Oscilio is set up for a very good turn here. So get back another sigil, and we might be in danger. Yeah, seeing the sigils in the top third of the deck is pretty spooky. All right, I think we still just need a cross trap here, and I think we're going to turn on our equipment because it seems pretty likely we're going to need to use on this turn. So let's start with the Surging. I guess there's maybe some merit to like pitching the other Surging here. I don't know if that's entirely necessary. So I assume they're going to let this hit. We could actually cycle this Empowerment if we just wanted the extra damage. I think it's not worth it, though. So we start... I think we want to get Lynx, right? We get Lynx. So let's do Lynx first. I think this should be the correct order. We Lynx Katsu, then Breeze Rider. Oh, okay. I think we did it wrong somehow. So I think we should have done it in the opposite order, but that's fine. I guess it doesn't really matter, right? I'm still just trying to figure out how this UI works. So we use Katsu. We discard what, Empowerment here? We're cracking the mat. I guess we discard the Retrace. We get Bonds. Then we use the Lynx to get Yellow Whelming. Maybe that's the play. Then we can use the Yellow Whelming plus Okana plus the Empowerment to pump to 5, which is a pretty big deal. So imagine they probably want to use their Flash of Brilliance this turn. So maybe they're going to block with like this plus Flash. So we will go for the Empowerment on this. Draw a card. Not super useful. But actually might be fine if we can like buy back a Whelming, then we can like play out the Surging plus Edge of Autumn. So maybe that actually works. Could Okana this, but we also like don't need to. So I think we're supposed to just pass priority on this. So the Whelming hits. Do not destroy the Breeze Rider. Then we draw our card. Technically, we should be drawing the card before the Breeze Rider resolves, just so we have maximum information. Oh, we drew a red Whelming, which is actually a pretty big deal. So now I feel like the lines maybe open up a little bit more. Like we might just be able to kill them now with this hand if we just get to play a second Surging Strikeout. This is actually a pretty huge turn for us, I feel like. They're going to have a pretty big turn of their own next turn, but it's probably not going to be as good as ours, I feel like. All right, so now we get to play the Bonds. What is Bonds getting here? So we drew a red Whelming, which maybe makes me think, what do we get instead then? Could theoretically go for the Enact Vengeance if we really wanted to, but we also I feel like that might not be the best option. Maybe we're supposed to just get the last red Whelming out of our deck and then save this one for next turn, or maybe just like play it out. I feel like those are the two options I see. So we were just getting another red Whelming, the last red Whelming out of our deck, and then just replaying the Surging plus Whelming. And then the Whelming is threatening another 5, which is a pretty big deal, I feel like. Still not destroy the Breeze Rider. And then I think we'll just attack with Edge. Alright, we'll attack with Edge here. Interesting that they're going to get Flash of Brilliance on this. Maybe they're not scared of our turn anymore, so they're just blocking for the sake of it. Now we get to play another Surging plus Whelming, which should be pretty scary for our opponent here. Getting an additional card draw this turn is going to be probably pretty good if we draw something like maybe Better Arsenal. They are going to be having a 6-card hand functionally, assuming that they don't give us any cards to block here, but we are at a decent life buffer, so we can maybe weather one pretty good Gone in a Flash turn. Definitely depends a lot on what they have. Alright, so we won't crack the Breezer Boots. And we will play out this Whelming from Banish. Alright, so it looks like they're going to give us the Aether Bindings and maybe another card, and then we can blow them out with the Okana Scar Wraps. So we will go ahead and threaten that here, I think. Because we can at least, at the bare minimum here, we can just play out another... also, the Whelming Gust Wave, I guess, should be going first. I guess now we just, like, Arsenal Blue Whelming for maybe a future Surging Strike, and then just play this out for 3. Fortunately, we are going off of Edge of Autumn this turn, but I think it's not actually that bad in this deck to lose Edge of Autumn for a couple turns. They are going to have a 4-card hand, but a 4-card Gone in a Flash turn is not normally very high damage. Alright, seems like they're just going to take 3 here. That makes sense. I think we'll go ahead and just Arsenal Katsu back and then see what the turn is next turn. So they're gonna have 3 known cards, or I guess two sigils and then that. Interesting. I wonder why they're playing out the second sigil. Maybe means their hand's not very good. Because normally you want to just try to like bank sigils. Alright, this next hand is not amazing. So we might be trying to block a little bit. Or we could also just try to yellow off Harmony. Especially if they're just sending like a current funnel. So I think we don't care about this. Maybe we just give them the Breezer Boots block, just because against Oscilio, normally the block doesn't matter that much anyways. Notably, current funnel does have to have an action played to get the go again, so if they just play an instant, that does not turn on the current funnel. I wonder if that's what they were going for here. Maybe they just hit a press. I guess that also kind of makes sense, but it's also kind of low value. Generally not what you want from your like Flash of like Brilliance turn or whatever. So yeah, I think here we're just going to send it with the Ancestral Harmony. And then theoretically, if they let either one of the Underwinds or the Flusterfist hits, we can follow up with Whelming Bonds afterwards. So I think that's going to be the play. Is just hope that they aren't able to block both the Underwinds and the Fluster. So very likely that they're going to block the Underwinds. Or maybe not. Okay, seems like they're not going to block. So we are going to Breeze our Boots here. So we Breeze our Boots, and pretty much the world is our oyster at this point. We can maybe even get a Retrace. So we Whelming, this Whelming has go again for 1. Or for 2 rather, from the Harmony. We play the Whelming, then we Bonds, maybe getting another Whelming. And then we Retrace Fluster or something, so it means we discard Fluster. So yeah, we'll use Katsu ability, discard Fluster, get... where's our yellow? Do we have a yellow Whelming still somewhere? Oh, did we use yellow Whelming? Maybe we did. Yeah, we did use yellow Whelming, so maybe we have red. Okay, seems like we scooped up anyways. I think we pretty much had lethal there. They did have some number of block, but I feel like the Calming Breeze was maybe not exactly what they needed to us. Maybe not super impactful in terms of like blocking out breakpoints and stuff. All right, so I think that's probably gonna wrap it up for today. So Katsu's looking to be pretty good, especially up in this upcoming Pro Tour meta. I think that Slippy does do a lot of similar things. It's just kind of like, it kind of is like in a more positive versus negative direction, right? Like Slippy is about kind of like denying your opponent's value, whereas Katsu is about generating value for yourself. So it feels like they're very similar decks, right? You have a lot of like go again on hits. You're very kind of streamlined, more redline than anything. You do have like some blue cards that you can play pitch and stuff, but like for the most part, this is kind of like a very redline deck, especially with like the Act Vengeance and stuff. I think I still need to tune this deck like a little bit. Like I'm not saying that this is what you should take to go like play the Pro Tour. This is not a deck that I've tested by any stretch of the imaginations. Like the sideboard is like whatever, but I think the core game plan here is like surprisingly powerful. Like you just play all the best combo cards, right? And then you have 41 combo cards. So you're super likely to out Harmony a lot of the time. You have a lot of good utility with like 2 card hands off like Act Vengeance and stuff like that. Like I think there's actually a lot of power to this deck. Like you get to have very like a lot of your just like cards just have like random on hits. Like Seek Vengeance has an on, like every card in this deck has an on hit, which is kind of crazy. Um, which I think is like maybe what makes this deck so powerful is that your opponent just like cannot block anything. Like your opponent can block some things, but they can't block everything, right? So you're basically like always getting value depending on like what cards are hitting and stuff, which I think is like kind of like the main power level of this deck. Definitely seems like pretty cool, pretty fun. I feel like you can pretty regularly put together like 30 something damage turns, and yeah, excited to see some people like crack this deck open in the Pro Tour because I think this is like a pretty unrefined version, but I think that a lot of players have been like practicing with this deck and maybe have a bit more of a refined list. So, yep, this is going to be list for today. Again, take this list with a grain of salt. I think that the core ideas here are correct, but maybe the sideboard and some of the main deck choices are like a little bit suspect. But overall, I think this is a very, very powerful deck. The Ira deck added surprisingly a huge bump in power. Like I think that the Seek Vengeance package or like the Vengeance package is just very, very strong. And the ability of like Okana Scar Wraps is just kind of insane, right? Like you basically get like 3 to 4 value off this plus a +2 on your like block, which kind of makes this card like insane. Like this card I think is just very, very strong, especially if you're like, especially in Katsu where like you can afford to go off Edge of Autumn for a turn, unlike Ira. You can basically just play like very red line, and then eventually at some point you might hit with a card with Vengeance, and then you just get to buy back your Edge of Autumn, and then you get to go from there. Like, you really don't need to be like that conservative with your Edge of Autumn. Like, you don't need this to enable your turns, right? Your turns are enabled by like all the other cards in your deck. So, anyways, I think that's probably gonna be it for today. So, thank you all for watching, and I'll see y'all next time. And a special thank you to all the folks who decided it would be a good idea to give us $2 on Patreon. We really appreciate the support, but it's obviously never required.